Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Andrew's Animation. For today's theme, I've decided to go with movies that you can view on YouTube. And we're not talking about ones you have to rent, buy, or even the free with ads kind of YouTube. We're talking about these are movies that have been fully posted to YouTube and are ready, available to watch. I've only got a few to go over. I know there's actually a lot of films that have been uploaded to YouTube in the past, but these are just a few of the ones that I've come across recently, and I really wanted to share them with you because I think they're really interesting films. I got 3 films I want to show you today, and again, all of these are right here on YouTube, and you can watch them right after this if you really want. So I'll just go ahead and dive right in. The first movie I want to talk about is a movie called Rock and Rule. This is a Canadian film from 1983. This one was somewhat Disney-esque in the fact that characters were animal-like and then there was music sung in the film. But it is also still very much not in the normal Disney vein, and it was a little more geared towards adults, honestly. It was a darker animation. The movie was made by Nelvana. They're primarily known for a lot of kids shows that came out in the 90s and early 2000s, but this was in their early days, within the first few years of being a company, actually. And this film cost them $8 million. It nearly bankrupted them, but they were so set on getting this film out that they went ahead and spent that kind of cash on it. And the end product, while not perfect, was still really entertaining, honestly. The music is really fun, very much 80s. The characters, while not all of them are perfect, there are still some interesting aspects to them. I think the highlight of the piece, honestly, has to be the villain, Mock. He is a brilliant villain, and he's a lot more built compared to some of the other characters in the film. And just really enjoyable to just watch him brooding on screen, honestly. If nothing else, watch this for the music. The music is so much fun. Very much 80s, very good vibe throughout the whole film with the music. I would give this one probably 3.5 out of 5 stars. It could have been a lot more, but it was still a fun ride nonetheless, and it was really enjoyable. I would definitely recommend getting on and watching this one when you can. It is just a really enjoyable slice of the 80s, honestly. The next film, we're going to get a little more obscure here, is a movie called Feliday. And this is a German film from 1994, and you have to watch it on YouTube. And I don't mean like, oh my gosh, so good, you have to watch it. I mean, you literally can only watch this on YouTube. This movie has been released on German VHS, German DVD, but the DVD is long out of print. And if you feel like paying $100 for a movie you've never seen, go on your way then. You might find it. I've tried looking for it. It is extremely difficult, to say the least. So this movie was not widely available whatsoever until it got uploaded to YouTube in its entirety. It's the English dub version of the film, which, as far as I can tell from research, there's really no difference between the movies. No scenes were cut, no dialogue was majorly changed. It is literally just a dub of the film. And if that's the only way I can watch it, so be it. I will watch it nonetheless. Now, the characters of this film are all talking cats. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's so cute. Cats, I love cats. Well, yeah, cute. Cute's one word. And if you find murder,
sex, and a religious cult cute,
then yeah, cute. This is very dark for an animated film. The story concerns a cat who's just moved to the neighborhood, but discovers that other cats in the neighborhood are being systematically murdered. and he starts trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And it all somehow ties into this weird religious cult of cats. And it is bizarre, to say the least. But it was a really intriguing film. When I read about it, I was like, this sounds just batshit crazy. I have to watch it. And sure enough, there it was on YouTube. And so I went and watched it. And wow. Just wow. It's in a totally different category all its own. The closest genre I could say this would be crime thriller. That's exactly what it is a crime thriller. And that's an animated movie to top it off, about talking cats. It is the weirdest combination I've ever seen, and there are some grisly scenes in this. It was so different compared to anything I've seen, honestly. It just really sits with me, especially when you're using animation to talk about a subject like murder. It is an entirely different experience, to say the least. I would give this film 4 out of 5 stars. It is so different and yet really good at the same time. The story is pretty well developed, the characters are pretty interesting, and just overall, I could not look away from the screen while watching it. It was just such a unique film, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you will too if you go and watch it. It's definitely worth checking out. The last film I want to talk about is actually probably the best known of the bunch. You've probably seen this film in one of its many forms, and the film is called The Thief and the Cobbler. Now, some of you probably remember this VHS masterpiece from when you were kids, and rightly so, but maybe you don't know the whole story behind it, which is really interesting. There are other videos that go into much more detail about the history of The Thief and the Cobbler. I'll just go over a couple of the highlights really quick. 1, this movie took nearly 30 years to get completed, and that's downright crazy. Nearly 30 years to complete an animated film. And that's simply because they had a lot of trouble with finances, copyright, the film changing hands. Production on this film started as early as 1964, and it wasn't until 1989 that a major studio picked the project up to get it finished. Warner Brothers was the one that was like, hey, yeah, let's help you finish this film and get it out to the public. After a few years, they got a work print of the film, they showed it to the executives, and they said, yeah, no, we don't want this anymore. We're just gonna sell this off to another company and let them deal with it. We don't want to do this anymore. They got sold to another company, they kicked the director and his team off of it, and they went out and said, who out here can finish this film as quickly and cheaply as possible? They got someone, they finished it, and turned it into a Disney copycat, and released it to the public. Now, before we get to the official releases, I want to talk about the work print for a second. The work print runs at around 90 minutes, give or take a couple minutes, I think. And there's some aspects of the film that are very important. One is the animation, and it is pure art. And the director, Richard Williams, very much wanted to show that off. I thought it was a really interesting approach, especially getting to just stare at how good some of this animation is. The other aspect is that the two titular characters, the thief and the cobbler, are both silent characters. They don't have speaking lines. It's very much in homage to silent film, and it is a very unique choice to make, especially with them being amongst the main cast. The only other aspect about this film that was interesting to me is that there were some slightly more mature themes. Nothing graphic or anything like that, but it was definitely stuff that you probably would only understand more as an adult. Now that I've given you a few of the basics about the work print, let's dive into the official releases. So someone answered the call of finish this as quickly and cheaply as possible, and the end product was renamed The Princess and the Cobbler. This one was released over in the UK and a few other countries, I believe. And this version was quite a bit different from the work print. First off, 80 minutes. Now, by simple math, you think they took 10 minutes out. I would imagine they took closer to 20 minutes off of the work print because they then went and added in probably close to 10 minutes of musical numbers. This was shortly after Aladdin had come out, so they were very much trying to cash in on that. And so obviously they need to have musical numbers. They needed to try and make it closer to Aladdin if they could. And then another aspect was that they gave dialogue to the Cobbler. A silent character in the work print was now given speaking lines. And that weirded me out to no end when I watched that version. I was like, no, he's not supposed to talk. And it was a very interesting choice, to say the least. So with the combination of the musical numbers and the new spoken dialogue, and they also minused out a few of the more mature elements, it made for a very different viewing experience. And I didn't hate it, but I also didn't super like it myself. Now, that release came out in 1993, and it wasn't until 1995 that the movie reached America. The distributor for the film here was Miramax, who at the time was a branch of Disney. They took the cut that had premiered internationally and they filed it down even more, down to 72 minutes. Now, as far as I can tell, they didn't add in their own scenes or anything. They just cut out more. In fact, they cut out anything that wasn't deemed family friendly. They made sure that anything slightly mature was non-existent whatsoever. They redid the dub and gave it an American cast, and the thief, who had been silent up until this point in history, was now given a voice. It wasn't necessarily a speaking role, it was that we could hear his train of thought. And that was a very unique choice for them to make. But apparently there could not be a silent character in the film. They thought that was too weird. The amount of hacking and cutting that was done to this film is just ridiculous, honestly. Taking it down to 72 minutes from an original 91 minute runtime is simply ridiculous. Making severe cuts like that could really be jarring to people. I, for one, absolutely hate editing like that. It is just ridiculous, and it just seems like a sloppy job, honestly. Isn't that right? Either way, that's the version that Miramax released to the public, and again, it was originally called Arabian Night. And down the line, all the releases went back to being called The Thief and the Cobbler. I'm not sure why, but they did go back to the original title, so that was cool of them, but it still was very confusing because there were multiple versions. And in recent years, we got a great effort to have the work print restored so that we could see the entirety of the story and all the finished animation. And when I got to watch this version, which is called the Recobbled Cut, I was blown away. The story has a lot more to it. The animation that is finished is amazing, and even the stuff that wasn't finished is fun to watch. You see animations that are only half done, or you have storyboards to fill in some of the gaps, and it is a really interesting experience. I've never watched a work print before, and I really enjoyed it. And it's back up to that full 91 minutes. It was wonderful viewing, and I really enjoyed being able to watch that, but then also compare with The Princess and the Cobbler and Arabian Night, which those are also available on YouTube if you want to compare the versions. And it is an interesting experience, to say the least, when comparing. Me personally, I love the work print, the recobbled cut. That's my preference for watching that film. If you happen to like one of the other versions better, that's great. They definitely have some good qualities to them. I just feel like that they're lacking a lot in the story area. And as I've said before to you guys, story is so important to me. So watching the fullest version in the recobbled cut was just a dream for me, and I really enjoyed it. And highlight of the entire film, if you didn't know this already, the villain, Zigzag, is brilliant, and he's voiced by Vincent Price. You cannot get a better villainous voice than Vincent Price. There never will be anyone else like him when it comes to his voice work. It is so unique, so sinister, and yet so lighthearted at the same time, and I couldn't get enough of that character through the whole film. I haven't given a rating to either Arabian Night or The Princess and the Cobbler. I didn't think to do that, actually. But for the recobbled cut, I give that one a 4 out of 5 stars. It is a beautiful film. It is a wonderful viewing experience. The characters are better. The story has a lot more to it. And it is just a better movie all around, in my personal opinion. Again, you can watch all 3 versions of this film on YouTube. But if you're going to check one of them out, check out the recobbled cut. I think it's the best one to watch. Those are all the movies I have to talk to you about right now. Again, all of them watch right here on YouTube. You go and search for them after this. They really are just all fun films to watch. Each of them is a unique experience and well worth your time. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me rambling on about these films. I hope you're interested in these films and go and watch them as soon as you can. They are all well worth it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video.